Okay, everyone. Welcome to the 2021 Spring Entrepreneur Speaker Series. I'm Shanika Turner. I'm Assistant Professor of Business Administration. I am a moderator for this series, and after our speaker is done speaking, we will take questions, so please feel free at any time to enter your questions into the chat box. Our students in our newly launched entrepreneurship pathway are learning that entrepreneurs are not just business owners or business creators. They are innovators in their own fields. An entrepreneur mindset is a set of skills that enable people to identify and make the most of opportunities, overcome and learn from setbacks, and succeed in a variety of settings. I'm sure if you just take a moment and look at your life, you probably can come up with at least one instance where you embody an entrepreneurial mindset. Do you have compelling goals or that keep you future focused and motivated? Do you have an optimistic interpretation of adverse events and see problems as potential opportunities? Then you have an entrepreneurial mindset, much like our speaker, Casandra Austin-McDonald, who I am honored to introduce today. Casandra is a personal growth strategist, a speaker, an author, and CEO of Live Greater Institute. Her former career includes 12 plus years of experience in cognitive behavioral training and crisis intervention by working with juvenile and adult offenders. Although Casandra has extensive professional experience in her craft, she also has a very personal, real-life experience with healing, growth, and positive change. As a result of transforming nearly every area of her life, Casandra launched her own personal growth and life coaching practice where she empowers others to redefine how they show up for themselves, their relationships, and in their lives. Casandra is also a mental health advocate, host of the Grow Thru It Podcast, and has been featured on several other podcast blogs and various media outlets. Casandra, I just want to thank you so much for being with us today, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Shanika, and thank you everyone for being here today. Happy Hump Day. It's my little salutation for Wednesdays. And I actually had a friend text me this morning, one of those St. Patrick's Day memes. And I was like, you know what? It's a good thing this is a virtual event because I don't have on any green, so no one can pinch me today. Shanika's got her green on. Well, I am so excited to share not only my story, but some nuggets with you all. And it's really my highest intention that you all will see the importance of overcoming adversities and challenges so that you can make it out to the other side. And you'll hear me reference the other side quite frequently today. And when I'm talking about the other side is really whatever that goal is that you're working toward, that vision, that dream, that is what the other side means to me. And so you'll hear me reference that today. But I just want you to remember that challenges are always there to show up in your life. And you are going to have the mindset to know if you are going to allow those challenges to hold you back, or are you going to allow those challenges to help you to evolve into a different version of yourself. And we'll talk more about that today as well. But the key when it comes to these challenges and adversities and setbacks is not to get stuck there. So many people get stuck there and then they don't allow themselves to lean into the discomfort and get to the other side. And so you are going to learn today about how important it is to allow those challenges and those adversities and those setbacks to make you stronger, wiser, and braver so that you can get propelled forward. And I really want you to understand by the end of our chat today that you really truly do have everything that you need inside of you to overcome anything and to make it out to the other side, and that you truly can accomplish anything. So most importantly, it is my intention that when we end our time together, that you will understand that it is not just about what you become, but about who you become in this journey and on your own personal endeavors, whether if you decide to be an entrepreneur, an intrapreneur, start your own business, work for someone, whatever the goal, the dream, the vision is that you have, that you will realize that it's more important about who you become on this journey. Now, the very first thing you're going to have to realize is that you have to have the right mindset. And I know Shanika just referenced that mindset is probably the number one thing that is important when it comes to business, entrepreneurship, and achieving any goal, if you want to be honest. There's a certain mindset that is required for you to overcome adversities. You have to cultivate an overcomer mindset. You're going to have to become self-aware. What do I mean by that? What is your thinking like? Do you have stinking thinking? Do you have negative thoughts that you allow to control you? What is your perception when you are faced with challenges, when you're faced with setbacks, when you're faced with adversities? How do you perceive them? How do you see them? And do you know if it's helping you or hurting you? See, if you don't cultivate your level of self-awareness, you're not even going to be aware enough to know if it's your own thinking that's standing in your own way. Because sometimes you will realize that it wasn't the obstacle, it wasn't the challenge, it wasn't the adversity that was in your way, it was you standing in your own way. And so you are going to have to work on changing your perception and shifting the way that you see challenges, how you see adversities, how you see oppositions that come up against you in the least of expected times. And see, your perception is going to determine your outcome. I'm sure all of you have heard that your attitude determines your altitude. And so if you have a negative thought pattern, if you have a negative mindset, that could be the block, that could be the hindrance that is standing in your way. It could derail you and deter you and distract you from seeing opportunities inside of opposition. And I want to share a story with you all when I really got the grasp of this lesson of mindset. I was 19 years old. I was a sophomore in college. Some of you may be 19 right now, a sophomore in college. And I was a track and field athlete. And I was so hopeful that I was going to have a breakout season because I had just redshirted my freshman year. And so I just knew that this was going to be my time to shine. This was going to be my time to prove myself, and that I was going to be able to really prove myself in the Division I world of athletics. And I found out I was pregnant with my son. And despite promising myself that I wasn't going to go looking for love in all the wrong places, and I wasn't going to get involved with anyone, and I wasn't going to do anything to stop me from achieving what I went to college to do, I felt so down on myself. I felt like I let myself down. I was so ashamed. I was so embarrassed. And I felt like I let my team down. Have y'all ever felt like that, where you feel like you just let everyone, including yourself, down? And people were talking about me, and they were saying that I was going to have to drop out and take care of my son, and I just ruined my life. And I remember what really messed me up in that moment is I felt like I was repeating a generational pattern. See, my mom got pregnant with me when she was 19 and a sophomore in college, but she dropped out when she had me. And I felt, oh my gosh, I'm repeating what happened in my family. And we had it tough growing up. We grew up poor. I grew up and experienced a lot of trauma. I grew up in a dysfunctional household. And I knew that I could not go back to where I came from. And some of you may be in college because you know that where you come from, you can't go back to that. You know, there's nothing there for you. And that's how I felt. I felt I can't go back to that. There's nothing to go back to. And so I had my back against the wall, and I knew I had to make a decision. I knew that I had to make a choice, that I was either going to allow this situation to define me, to make me give up, to make me drop out, or that I could make another decision and lean in and see what I was really made of. And so while I was pregnant, I started helping out at track meets to keep a partial scholarship so that I could cover expenses for college. And it was the most humbling experience. I ever had, because I'm showing by now, and my colleagues are training and they're competing, and I'm watching everyone win in meets I thought I would win, and it was so humbling. But in that moment, I had to suck up my pride and do what I had to do to get school paid for. And eventually I started working on campus, and I even started doing hair on the side. So there's my little entrepreneurial bug kicking in so I could make extra income. And I took summer courses, and I did whatever I had to do to not fall behind. And then when I gave birth to my son, I was right back in the classroom a week later. And my friends would help me with him until I could get him into daycare. There were even times that I would take my son with me to class, and he was quiet and he slept through, and it was an absolute miracle. It was like everything was on my side because I decided that I was going to keep going, that I was not going to quit. I had professors who were encouraging me. I had people who were telling me that I could make it, that I could do it. And I just used that as fuel and motivation to just keep moving forward. And I started to make the dean's list multiple times, and eventually graduated with my bachelor's on time and with honors, with my son by my side. And now he's a senior in high school, about to graduate in June, and on his way to college. But I realized that it was my mindset that helped me to get to the finish line. See, I had a choice in that moment. I could have allowed that to be the thing that cursed me, like my family's generational patterns, that they didn't finish things, they dropped out of things, and they allowed circumstances to define them. But I decided I was going to do something different. And I decided that I was going to make a different decision, and that I was going to see opportunity in the midst of that obstacle. And that's exactly what it did. And that's what helped me get to the other side. In this instance, the other side was getting the degree, getting what I came there for. I didn't listen to the negative naysayers. I didn't listen to the people who had something negative to say. I just stayed focused, stayed consistent, and I kept going until I got to the end. See, sometimes you are going to have something show up that is going to make you feel like you did something wrong, like you messed up, like you made a mistake. But in that moment, you can allow that to be an opportunity for you. You can allow that to say, are you going to allow that to be the reason why you don't do something? Or are you going to allow that to be the reason why you do something? My son became my why. I didn't allow that to be the thing to stop me. I allowed him to be my why, that I had to make it to show him that we don't quit, we don't give up. But you get to decide that. You have to decide that. And the next point is, you must learn your lessons and apply them to your life. See, sometimes life is going to throw you experiences that are going to feel so uncomfortable, that are going to make you question and say, why me? And you could either become a victim of those circumstances, or you can lean into that discomfort and you can say and ask, what is this here to teach me? What is the lesson? And if you dare to lean into the discomfort and you dare to lean in to see what the lesson is there for you to learn, that is how you grow. That is how you become more resilient. That is how you are able to overcome all the odds that may be stacked up against you. Some of you may have odds stacked up against you right now. But you do not have to let that stop you. You do not have to let that define you. You can allow that to make you determined. You can allow that to make you tap into a level of strength that you didn't know that you had. You can allow that to make you grow into another version of yourself. But see, I believe that there's no such thing as a wasted experience if you apply the lesson learned to your life. It doesn't matter how ugly the experience is. It doesn't matter how uncomfortable it feels. It doesn't matter if you feel like you made a mistake. It's not a waste if you get the lesson and you apply the lesson learned to your life. Because things are going to happen. People are going to disappoint you. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to fall. But the key is to not stay stuck there and to get back up again and allow those things to teach you rather than tear you down. And so on the other side of breakdowns is often breakthroughs. You just have to keep going. Every time I face a challenge, every time I face an adversity, every time I feel like I'm stuck on something, I ask, what is this here to teach me? What is the lesson? Because I know the minute I grasp the lesson, I can keep moving forward. And so ask yourself, when you're in the middle of a challenge, when you're in the middle of a setback, when you're in the middle of something that you feel like has knocked you down on your knees, what is this here to teach me? What can I learn from this? I will never forget on Halloween, October 31st of 2016, I got a phone call while I was at work. At the time, I was working with adult offenders. I used to work with clients who had been sentenced to probation, and I was always super busy. And this particular day, I just so happened to be available to catch a phone call. And it was my best friend calling to let me know that my home had been broken into. And she had stopped by our house while she was taking my son home to grab some things. And he was met there with the back door kicked in, things destroyed, everything completely disheveled. And so I frantically left work, and I'm driving and I'm trying to have my phone on speakerphone at the same time, and I'm calling the police. And I'm trying to breathe through it because my anxiety is welling up, and I'm afraid because all I could think about in that moment was, did they take my laptop? Did they take my laptop? Because my laptop contained my manuscript on it. And in that moment, I was just trying to stay calm, and I was just breathing. And I just kept worrying about my laptop with my manuscript on it. Have y'all ever felt like that, where you're just so afraid and you're so anxious and you're just like, oh my God, what if this, what if that, what if this, what if that? And you're just going worst case scenario straight to your mind. And I was just driving and I was thinking worst case scenario, like, oh my God, my laptop. I didn't care about anything else that they said was gone. I just was like, where is my laptop? And I'm calling my best friend while I'm driving home. And I'm like, is my laptop in there? And so I get home, and nothing is recognizable. There was couch cushions everywhere and removed and tossed all over the floor, and chairs were knocked down, and anything and everything of value was stolen. All electronic devices, the TVs, all that type of stuff. Cash, anything of value, you name it, it was gone. Things were broken. My back door was kicked in and destroyed. And all I was caring about was this laptop. That's all I cared about. And so I'm looking all over. There's papers all over the ground because they had knocked over my filing cabinet, and there's things all over, and I'm just looking for my laptop. And as I continued to search, soon I found not one, but 2 flash drives on the ground. They took the laptop, but they were kind enough to leave the flash drives. And I remember I cried tears of gratitude. And the police had arrived by then. My best friend and my son, and they're looking at me and they're like, what is wrong with you? Like, do you see this? And I was just so happy. I didn't care about all the material stuff. I just cared that my manuscript was still here. And with a very short period of time after that, I launched my blog. I self-published my first book, Unclothed, Memoir of a Naked Soul, in February 2017, and I stepped fully into my purpose as a speaker, author, and coach. Soon I became the first woman of color and the first Black person on the cover of our local magazine, where they had a full spread of my story and the self-empowerment movement I had started and the healing work I had done. And I just remember realizing what the lesson was in that. In the lesson of that breakthrough, in the lesson of that break-in, you know, all I could think was, I almost allowed my own fear, self-doubt, and worry of what are other people going to think of me when I share my story, or what are people going to say when I want to start this business, or what are people going to think when I tell them that I want to do what I'm doing at my day job for myself in a business. Are they going to talk about me? Are they going to judge me? What if I fail? And I was allowing that self-doubt and that fear and that worry to control me. And it took someone breaking into my home and me thinking and being afraid that my manuscript was gone to actually push me into action. I was so afraid that I was going to have to rewrite that book rather than being afraid of what people thought of me. And it took a break-in for that to happen. See, I realized that there was a lesson in that obstacle for me. And I had to be the one to lean in to receive it. I had to be the one to shift my perspective and to see the gift that was there for me. That it could have either allowed me to be bitter and resentful, or I could allow that to challenge me, to push me, and to make me better. See, you get to decide that. You get to decide when life happens and something that you didn't expect to happen shows up on your front step. Are you going to allow it to make you bitter and resentful? Are you going to see what the lesson is in there for you? See what it's there to teach you and grab a hold of it and run with it. And that's what I did. I'm not certain how long it would have taken me to finally step into what I'm doing right now had it not been for that break-in. I don't know if I would have kept allowing fear and self-doubt and worry to win. Maybe I would have eventually mustered up the courage to start doing what I'm doing. Maybe a year later, maybe 2, I don't know. But what I do know to be true is that in that moment, when I thought that something I had poured my heart and soul into may have been taken from me, that mattered more than my fear and my worry and my self-doubt of what other people may think about it, or what if I fail? So you have to decide, are you going to lean in and get the lessons? Are you going to allow those lessons to fall out the grasp of your hands because you allow those situations to make you resentful and bitter? You get to decide that. Each year, I try to come up with a word or a phrase or an affirmation to anchor me in for the year, something to live by. Some of you may have heard like a word of the year, a phrase of the year, an affirmation of the year. And after last year, I said the only thing I could come up with was trust. You ever been afraid, like, I don't want to put too much good stuff out there because something bad just happened. You like, I'm afraid if I do too much of much of good thing that I could jinx it. And so I said, I'm just going to put trust. I'm going to say that I'm going to trust God. I'm going to trust myself, and I'm going to trust the process of life. And when you are on a journey of building something, whether if it's your career, a business, an entrepreneurial pursuit, you are going to have to lead by blind faith many of times. There are going to be times where you are putting in consistent action. You are being disciplined and you don't see the fruit of your labor yet. There are going to be times where you are not where you used to be, but you're not quite where you want to be yet. And you're in the middle called the process, and you don't see the other side yet, but you know you're in too far, you're in too deep to turn back around. That's the process. It's where it really starts to get uncomfortable. It's where a lot of people really start to doubt and question themselves because they're not seeing the results yet. They're not seeing the fruit of their labor yet. And see, you have to trust that everything that you're doing is adding up and leading to something. It's called the compound effect. The compound effect is where your small, consistent actions over a period of time start to add up. And over a period of time, you will start to see the results. It's like a big old mass of results, and it just starts to show up out of nowhere. But if you give up too soon, if you quit too early, you will not get there. You will not see it. You have to know with every fiber in your being that everything that you're working toward, it's going to show up. It's going to work out if you do not quit, if you do not give up. I've been building my coaching practice for the last few years now. And I not only had to learn how to trust God and myself, but I had to trust that all of the hard work and the effort and the work that I was putting into this was actually not in vain. And that every obstacle that one could possibly think of started to come in my way as I was building this. I started building it when I was working we call it in the entrepreneurial world, the 9-to-5. I was working my 9-to-5 job, and I had to use every bit of spare time I had when I was not at work to do speaking engagements or to work with clients or to learn marketing and to learn how to do this and do that and all these tasks. And my whole world was just consumed with that. And I was starting to get some new clients coming in. And in 2019, my mom had a massive stroke. And she had to learn how to talk, walk, and eat again. She lost all coordination and functionality of her faculties. And she's still recovering. She still can't go to work. And one day, while my sister and I were driving up to Iowa to see her, because she had the stroke in Iowa, so she had to be hospitalized there. And I was on the phone with a coaching client, and I had to dig deep within to give them the very best that I had, because I didn't have any other time. I was working a day job, and my off time from that is when I would coach clients, and I would do speaking opportunities, and I would train and do workshops. And so I couldn't not do it. I had to. So my sister's driving up to Iowa for us to see my mom, and I'm on the phone and I'm pouring into my client and I'm encouraging them and motivating them, all while we're driving up to see, is my mom going to make it? And during this time, I remember thinking, is this worth it? Is this worth it? Does this make sense, what I'm doing? What am I doing? Because in that moment, if I'm really honest with y'all, I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to do anything, but somewhere deep inside, I knew I had to dig deeper, because I was committed to my work. I was committed to my clients, and I was committed to my business. So I knew I had to push past the negative thinking, and I had to push past the discomfort, and I had to push past my feelings, and I had to push past I just don't feel like it. You know, sometimes we just don't feel like it. And you're going to have to push past that. And so in the midst of that same year, my husband and I decided that we were going to relocate to Florida, where we live now. He got an amazing opportunity, and we decided that I had built my business up enough where I could quit my 9-to-5. And so I was so excited, thinking it's going to take off. Finally, everything that I've been working so hard for is going to work out. And then the biggest world crisis that any of us could possibly imagine hit us. COVID-19, a world pandemic. And then the racial uprising. And I remember I was in the midst of that last year, and I was feeling so discouraged. I felt like I made a mistake. I was questioning myself. I was doubting myself. I was thinking, maybe I should have stayed in Illinois, because I was hearing about my colleagues working from home, and I was like, I should have stayed home. What did I do? I thought I made a mistake. And the self-doubt, the negative thinking, the inner critic, the analysis paralysis, all of that stuff started to creep in. But I had to make a decision to fight back. And so I started to use the very mindset tools and techniques that I teach to my clients, my students, and in my community. And I had to become my own best client. And so I had to dig deep, shift my perspective, drown out the distractions, sometimes cut the news off. I had to lean in and see, what is this here to teach me? What is my lesson? And I had to trust the process. I had to trust that I made the right decision. So I kept building. I kept going. I kept promoting. I started doing virtual speaking events because the in-person events were closing. I kept posting my episodes for my podcast, and I kept posting online, and I kept doing things even when I didn't feel like it, even when I was battling it. Am I doing the right thing? Should I have stayed back? Should I have not quit my job yet? And I just kept reminding myself that this too shall pass. And I just started speaking the truth and positivity to myself, that I'm in the middle of the process. This is what it looks like. I'm growing, I'm learning, I'm being stretched. But if I lean in, this is going to be where the magic happens. A lot of people that you see right now who have successful businesses right now, like Uber, they started in the last crisis of 2008. A lot of people who became successful that you see right now, they started shortly after all of the financial crashes happened in 2008. No excuses, shifting their mindset, leaning into the discomfort, coming up with solutions. And so I just kept doing it. And I ducked my head low and I kept doing it. And this year, every month this year, my business has generated more revenue than I ever made in a 9-to-5. And my coaching clients, I have more coaching clients than ever. I don't know if that would have happened if I would have quit and gave up last year. I don't know if I would have been able to grow that if I would have stayed back at my 9-to-5 because my time was limited. And what really hit me the most was on Sunday. I went to the grocery store, picking up groceries for the fam, and this lady stopped me. Now, you guys, mind you, I'm in a state that I just moved to right before a pandemic hit. I have not been able to go to any in-person speaking events. I do not know how this woman found out about me. And she shared with me she had been listening to my podcast and that she was thanking me because she had just got out of a bad toxic relationship of 17 years. And I remember in that moment, it brought me to tears because I was thinking how if I would have quit or gave up last year, she would have never heard what she needed to hear to get out of a bad situation. And it was because I was persistent and consistent that allowed someone who I didn't even know to magically find me on the internet in the midst of a freaking pandemic to do something that was going to save herself and change the course of her life. And so my therapist yesterday, y'all, I'm a mental health advocate, so can we normalize mental wellness? My therapist yesterday asked me to reconsider how I define success, because for so long, I defined success as just the outcome, just meeting the goal, hitting the mark, very task-oriented. You get the goal, you're good. Just keep chasing the goal. And I thought about it, and I realized it's not just about chasing things. It's not just about chasing goals. It's not just about hitting these marks. That's important. But what I realize is that success is so much bigger than that. It's not just about what you do. It's not about just what you become, but it's about who you become on this journey called life. And so out of all of the obstacles and the challenges and the adversities I've overcome and all of the titles and the accolades and the accomplishments I've achieved, I'm most proud of who I have become. I'm not where I want to be yet, but I sure as heck, I'm not where I used to be. And I have faced my own demons. I have healed from trauma. I have defied odds stacked up against me. I have taken leaps of faith and believed in myself to start a business when I had no examples of anyone who looked like me in my family or my community that was doing anything that I was doing. And I just had this dream and this vision that I wanted to do something bigger than myself. I've raised a kind, healthy, intelligent human being. I'm proud of the woman I've become. So right now, I just want you all to just think about for a moment, and if you want, you can close your eyes for this exercise. I want you to think about a time that you had to overcome something really challenging that you thought you would not make it out of, and how difficult it felt, and how hard it seemed, and how time seemed to stand still in the moment as you questioned yourself if you had what it would take to make it to the other side. And now I want you to see where you are right now, how far you've come in this moment. Maybe you're not exactly where you want to be, but you have survived. You've overcome it. You've defied some odds. You've gotten better. And I want you to be proud of yourself for that. Just feel proud of yourself for that. See, if you don't take time to celebrate all of your wins, big or small, then you are never going to truly appreciate the journey on your way to your own personal version of success. You have to celebrate all the wins. You have to celebrate all the progress that you're making. You have to give yourself credit for when you pick yourself back up again, because that's no easy feat. Success is not just about the end result. It's not just about enjoying the end and the outcome and the goal achieved. It's about enjoying the ride on the way there, enjoying the journey as you're evolving into your greater self. So I really hope that y'all pat yourselves on the back and give yourself some credit for where you are right now. I do want to extend an offer for anyone who is interested in connecting with me to join me in my own virtual world. I have a community of people who are working on their own confidence and personal growth so that they can achieve what they desire. Some people are working toward healthier relationships. Some people are working toward actually mustering up the belief in themselves and the courage and the confidence to chase after their dreams. So there is a link that is going to be provided where you can learn more about me and the work that I do, and you're more than welcome to connect with me for a discovery call if that's something that you would be interested in doing. But I thank you all for your time. I hope that you all got some nuggets that you can take with you and apply to your life. And remember that you have everything you need inside of you, that what you desire exists for you, and that you are worth it and that you deserve it.
Wow. Wow. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That was amazing. I'm so inspired. I'm so inspired. That was just amazing. I mean, I feel like for you to come and do this for us and volunteer your time, it was worth so much. I mean, you gave so much good advice, and you spoke to entrepreneur mindset, and that's exactly what we are teaching our entrepreneurship students is, being positive and knowing that there will be setbacks, but you have to be able to overcome them. And when you have that entrepreneur mindset, that passion is so strong that you just keep going. And that whole journey that you went over exactly what I want my students to hear, because they can hear it from me, but they hear it from someone else who's gone through this journey, who, just kept going, and, you knew you had a purpose. And so, and that's exactly what we are trying to get across to students, that you don't have to be a business owner to have an entrepreneur mindset. You really don't. You could be working in your field, your job right now, your current job, and coming up with new ideas and new programs in your business. It's not all about opening a new business. Entrepreneur mindset can be applied to anything you're doing. So, the entrepreneurship pathway is not just for students who want to start a new business. It's those who have that entrepreneur mindset and the entrepreneur spirit, and they want to apply it to their life. If you guys have any questions, please go ahead and submit them to me in the chat. I'm happy to field them for you. We have some questions coming in now. So feel free to send them directly to me, or you can post them to everyone, but I'm happy to ask them.
I just wanted to touch on what you said, Shanika, that a lot of people, they look at what I do now, and I always have to share my background. I worked for over 12 years in my field, and during that time, I was volunteering for opportunities where I actually helped contribute toward changing the mission and vision statement of our of Sangamon County up in Springfield, where we worked with juvenile adult offenders. I was the vice president of our union. Like, I stepped up into roles to gain a skill set while getting paid to do so at my job. And so don't minimize a 9-to-5. Don't minimize getting employment, because that was the best training ground I could have gotten, rather than just winging it and saying, I got a dream and I'm just going to go out there and figure it out. I was able to get where I'm at right now because of all of those years of working in my former career. It really laid a solid foundation for me to have a really great skill set that I could actually transition into what I do now.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, one of the questions we have is, you stated remembering to celebrate victories, even small ones, is so important. Can you talk about some of the productive ways you celebrate your victories?
Journaling is a big practice I use daily. I am a big advocate for journaling. So the way that I like to journal, I journal twice a day. In the mornings, I typically journal about what I'm visualizing for my future and my goals. And then the evening is when I do more gratitude journaling. And I use that as a time to reflect and just think about within that day alone, what did I do? There is times, you guys, where I battled with depression really bad at one point where I couldn't even get out of bed. And I would celebrate myself for getting out of bed. And so when I say celebrate all the wins, I mean all of them. And something as simple as writing it down and journaling, I'm so proud of you for that, I'm so proud that you, whatever. Another exercise, there's this practice called mirror work where you go to the mirror and you just have a dialogue with yourself and you give yourself kudos. There's this concept that I teach to people about the inner cheerleader where we learn how to cheer for ourselves. So it may sound cheesy, but y'all, it's powerful and it works.
That's great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We have a little notes for you, and we have some more questions, but I'm going to read the note. It said, I wanted to just tell her thank you for her vulnerability in sharing. So many times she catches herself being selfish, thinking that I'm the only one that goes through things, but knowing that it's just not, it's not just her or this person, and that someone out there is dealing with the same thing or has dealt with it is important. Each day is an opportunity to make a change. So she said, this person said that you were so inspiring. And a question that came in right under is, what is a small quote or saying that motivates you?
That's a good one. Jeremiah 29:11. It's a scripture. God has plans to prosper me and not to harm me, plans to give me hope and a future. That is something I was saying to myself before I even started doing what I do now. I just was trusting and believing that there was something greater for me. And I just kept saying that to myself until I actually believed it in here.
Wow. So you gave a great advice, and I loved it. And you made me think about myself when you said you come up with a phrase or a word every year. I think that's amazing. And that kind of sets the tone for the year.
Yeah.
Do you have any, where do you come up with your phrase? Is it something that you want to accomplish during a year, or is it just something you want to live by that whole year? How do you come up with that phrase for the year?
There's this quote, begin with the end in mind, by the author Stephen Covey. I think his book is called The 9 Habits of Highly Effective People. And when he says begin with the end in mind, what I do is I think about what is it that I hope to achieve at the end of the year, and I kind of work my way backwards. And then I think about what is the mindset that I need to have to get there. And so for me, I was thinking about, this is my 6-figure year in my business. What do I need to know in my mind to get me there? And I was like, I'm going to have to trust that even though I don't see the numbers yet, even though I don't see the results yet, that all the effort, all the work that I'm putting in is actually going to work out. And so that's what helps me to come up with a word or a phrase.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Another question is, how you talked about your book. How do you find your book?
It's on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com. It's also on my website. If you go to my website and you go up to the right-hand corner and scroll down and look for book, then it'll be there as well.
Yeah. When I send out the survey for everyone that's here, I'll go ahead and put that information in there for those that are looking for that information.
Awesome.
If you could tell the students, give them one piece of advice, and what is something that you would tell them directly?
Believe in yourself. I have always not, when the times I did not achieve something is not because of an obstacle or an adversity. It was because I did not believe in myself. I was the one standing in my own way. And then when I actually did achieve something, I realized it's because somewhere I believed that I could. And so you have to work on your belief in yourself. It's not something that comes from anywhere outside of yourself. It's an internal thing. And so that would be the number one thing. Cultivate that belief in yourself. There's so many different mindset practices that you can do to work on that, but that's what I would say, believing in yourself.
Yeah, I agree. A question we have is you talked about how you left your career that you had been in for 12 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
How did you go about making that decision, and how did you address that fear that you had? Was there fear there when you decided to, go ahead and just leave your career?
Yeah, it was the scariest thing I've ever done. Giving up that paycheck. Now, I'm going to put this out there because there is this misconception on the internet and with social media, like, oh, quit your job and be an entrepreneur. And I do not encourage that because I would not have been able to do what I do. I have a very supportive partner, for one. For two, I had been setting myself up for that. I had paid off a private student loan. I had been saving. I had been investing. And I had been working on my skill set. And so the defining moment for me was, I believe this was May of 2019. I had a keynote opportunity and I made more to speak for 45 minutes than I made in a 2-week paycheck. And when I had got back to work that day, they had gave me a raise, like a bonus. It was like a bonus. And even my speaking event was more than that. And that's when the light bulb went on, like, okay, I'm getting somewhere, and it's going to get to the point where if I want to bring in more revenue in my business, I'm going to have to quit to do that. And so it was strategical, it was tactical. I had mentors, I had business coaches. It was not some whimsical, I'm going to quit my job and chase my dreams. Like, it was not that at all. I was very strategic in how I set myself up for that. When the moment came to do it, I was petrified, I was crying, I was scared, but I have just learned on my journey that when you feel the fear and do it anyway, you will amaze yourself at what you're capable of. And so I knew that the fear wasn't there to stop me, rather saying, you need to go do it. If I wouldn't have felt that fear, I may have said, I don't think I'm supposed to do this, but I was petrified. And anytime you feel fear, it's not to stop you, it's to say, hey, push past this and keep going. So.
Yeah, I love that. Statistics say that a lot of entrepreneurs are older and they've gone through their careers, but it's so important that they learn, like you said, it set you up and it gave you those nuggets that you needed to move forward. And that's kind of what we're doing in our entrepreneurship program, is we're trying to give you those nuggets and help you be strategic and starting your business and everything like that, and getting those bones set, as you would say, before you move on. So yeah, that's great. So that's all the questions we have for right now, but I want to thank everyone for attending our spring entrepreneurship speaker series. The next and final speaker for this semester will present on April 14th at noon. You can register at ess.highlands.edu. You will receive a short survey from today's event. I would greatly appreciate if you would take a moment to complete it. And I just thank you everyone for attending, and I hope that everyone has a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.